Alex with BF Vintage. We are here today at a local thrift store called Halo Animal Thrift. And I'm gonna go in there and see if I can find some treasures for my vintage Etsy shop, BF Treasures Co. So let's do it. Ooh, cute little spot.
Very cute.
Find some goodies. Here we go. The first thing we noticed was this high quality piece of glass, and we were just trying to figure out what it was, if it was missing a lid. It was such high quality, like I said, and it turns out it was Costa Boda, which I've sold some of those pieces before, and I actually have a couple in my shop right now. But because we didn't know if it had a lid that was missing or not, we decided to pass on that. So next thing, I started investigating this cabinet. I found this little tiny mini vase. I had recently found one that was made in occupied Japan, so I was just kind of checking the quality of that one to see if maybe it was the same, but it wasn't. Next thing I noticed was this vase. Now, I had a really hard time making out the stamp on the bottom, and I know that you can't see it either, but trust me, in person, I had no idea what it was saying. So I stood there for a minute trying to figure it out, but without being able to identify it, decided to put that one back. And then I got excited because I saw this paperweight, and do you guys see it on the bottom? There's a big old chip. So unfortunately, given that condition, even though it would have only been $7 because everything that day was half off, I was just concerned that it would deter people from wanting to purchase it. So after we investigated it in depth, because I really loved that fish, it looked really cool. Reminded me of those, gosh, I can't remember what they're called, but the fighting fish. And I used to have those when I was a kid, and I loved them. So anyways, had to move on because of the damage. So I just kept scanning these cabinets and did find these silver clam dishes. But upon inspection, it kind of looked like they'd just been painted. And so wasn't really sure of the quality of that. Next, I moved on to this, what I think was a candle holder, or figurine of some kind, and I really couldn't tell where it was from, and given it was $40, half off would be $20, kind of felt like even if it had value, it wasn't priced in a place where I would be able to resell it. Then I was really drawn to this jar under here that had a brass looking lid. I just thought it was gorgeous, and it said that it was a vintage dressing table jar. So I'd imagine that you would put it on your dressing table, maybe put a powder in it or something, or cream for when you're getting ready in the morning. And I'm regretting not getting it. It was only $7, but I just hadn't gotten anything like that before, so I wasn't really trusting myself there. Then I started looking at the salt and pepper shakers, and then I saw the clown. You guys know how I feel about clowns. There's just something about them. I'm drawn to them. And this guy was so detailed. I loved his face. I loved that his hair looked like it was in the, blowing in the breeze. And it was only $5. It may not have been vintage, but I was still digging it. And then I noticed there was damage on the front there. Do you guys see it? It looks like something was probably there before in the white part of his belly shirt, the shirt of his, right there. Yeah. And I just, couldn't move forward with that, knowing it had that big damage there, and we don't know what's missing. So it was sad. And next I moved on to some really darling little figurines. This one was super cute, little baby with a bonnet on, but it didn't have any markings on it, so I wasn't really sure who would have made that. Next I moved on to this Avon piece of this woman in a dress, and I was trying to figure out if it was Barbara Streisand or who was it, and it says Ginger Rogers. Now, apparently the movie is from the 40s, but this was made in the 80s. I mean, my goodness, it had so much information on the bottom: 1949, 1976, 1984. So even though it would have only been $250, I didn't know anything about that particular movie or actress. So I had to move on for those reasons. They had a lot of Hummels. They were priced quite high. That's just my own personal opinion, but I definitely moved on from that. But they had some figurines back here, and I was excited to see this little colonial guy, and he was actually made in Japan. It does say made in Japan on the bottom, but I don't know. I mean, I currently have a woman and man for sale that are in colonial clothes during this time frame, and they haven't sold yet. So I'm being a little bit more particular about these types of figurines, unless they have some other type of identifying marking where I might think they might have more value. Then I'm just going to go ahead and pass on that. Saw these cute little boots for $4, but they'd be $2 that day. But I don't know. I just didn't feel like it was interesting enough to take with me. So I started scanning these other shelves here, and I found this cute music box. Yes, it's a music box made of brass, and it's in the shape of a sailboat. Now, I really liked the shape, the design of it. It really reminded me of mid-century, and it did say made in Taiwan on the bottom, and I was really, really considering it. It took me a long time to try to decide, because there was some tarnish, and it wasn't the type of tarnish that you can easily, maybe forgive. There was just some staining. I didn't like the placement of it. Now, it would only have been, like $350. So I'm kind of kicking myself, because I did want to get it, but I didn't. And I don't really know what I was thinking. I guess I was just being especially particular that day. But I think once I looked it up, the resale value may have only been about $25 or less. So there still was a profit to be made. And yeah, I'm definitely regretting that one. But again, I try to trust myself, because, the next time I see one, then I'll definitely pick it up, and maybe it'll be in better condition than this one. If this one had been in better condition, then I definitely would have taken a chance. But given that it had that weird tarnish on the front, where if you'd had it sitting on a bookshelf or something, you would notice it from far away, and I didn't like that. So next I saw these vases, and they looked sort of like they went together, and when I looked at the markings, they were Asian, so I couldn't identify them. But I loved the cobalt blue colors with the gold decals, the florals. They were nice. Then I found this teapot, and I was very fascinated by it. So it was $44, but then it would be $22 today. And I was just curious, because that's quite high for a teapot. So I was trying to understand what this thing was, because it's almost like it had, this little metal, I don't know what to call it, sleeve, suitcase, covering of some kind. I imagine because it's metal, it was to keep it warm. And I just have never seen anything like that. So I was fascinated by it. And so it looks like it was likely the original teapot inside, the ceramic teapot. And it also said made in Holland, which really excited me. But as you can see here, the lid it had this softer material, and it was very, very, very stained. And I just personally wouldn't feel comfortable reselling something like that because it just needs to be in better condition, in my opinion, especially for $22, not knowing what the resale value would be. And then I spotted this one, and this napkin holder gave me Art Nouveau vibes. And it was only $3. Now, I'm guessing it's probably from the 80s. But I love that it was white with a gold detail, and it had, the flower on there. So even though the teapot was a no-go, the napkin holder was a yes. So that went in my basket. And then, of course, I spotted a clown, and I got excited. And, I'm kicking myself because I didn't grab it. And I feel like a lot of people have been commenting that they would love some of the clowns that I'm seeing. I tend to try to stick with vintage clowns, and maybe sometimes I don't know that it is in fact vintage. Sometimes when they're more like in the 80s and 90s, I'm not as sure. So I will take note and maybe pick some up in the future. And then we saw this plate, which I'm probably not going to say this right, but we knew it said it was Georges Berard, which, we know that the glassware is highly sought after. It's got very much mid-century looks to them. We usually see glasses, and they go for quite a bit. But this was like a plate or a bowl, and it did look like there was some sort of metal piece on the side of it. We couldn't tell if maybe it was missing something, maybe attached to something. So we did decide to pass on that one, just because we couldn't tell if it was damaged or broken. So, yeah. And we continued to hunt through this area here, saw that plate that had really nice florals there on it. And then I moved over to this area that had some brass, and I love me some brass. So I picked this guy up. There was definitely some tarnish on the bottom. And it was half price. So I just felt like there wasn't a lot of wiggle room for me for reselling. And I loved this cup. It had so much design, but as you can see, it has the paint there. And I would just be real concerned that I wouldn't be able to get that off. So even though it was $4.50, which would have been $2.25 for half off, I decided to pass. Saw this really pretty vase here. Didn't have any identifying marks that I could tell, so I did leave that one as well. And then noticed this vase, clear vase, for $4, but it looked more modern to me. And then we noticed this embroidery, and man, it had some really interesting things going on. Like this one was like a swarm of bees with a guy running away, and the cat's like freaking out, and we're just like, this is some interesting content here. Not sure if it'd be everyone's cup of tea, so we decided to leave that one behind. And then I found myself in the back part of the shop, and was drawn to the brass, of course. I wasn't sure where this guy was from. I wasn't sure if it was Greek or Middle Eastern. I just couldn't tell. And obviously it had the horn there on it. So I passed on that one. And then I noticed this really pretty box. And, it's got this black lacquer on it. And the etchings were really, really intricate. So I was trying to find some space here to open it up to see what the inside looked like. And the inside was actually in good shape. The top needs a little bit of cleaning there, which shouldn't be too difficult to achieve. But it just screamed boho to me and would make a really nice trinket box, or, maybe a place for your keys, like a catch-all. So I was definitely going to get that. Now, another thing that I always look for are, I look for Afghans or crocheted blankets, just because I find that they are popular and people really like them, especially for nurseries or even for their homes. So I was just investigating these, but neither of them really, I just wasn't feeling the colors. So even though this one was only $10, I did pass. And then I noticed this really beautiful dish here. I was trying to figure out what it was for, like, but I couldn't tell, you know, what it was for. So I passed.
All right, friends, we found 2 items and they were really cute. We spent about $5. And yeah, I really liked the little black box that had all the etchings or carvings in it. It was very boho and unique. So yeah, thanks for hanging out. And if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you want to see more videos, then you gotta subscribe. Till next time, friends. Bye.